We are here today on behalf of the Senate Republican and House Republican caucuses to highlight an issue that I think we hear about each and every single day, whether it be at the grocery store, whether it be at the football field on a Friday night, the baseball field, at your softball field, wherever you may go in town on Main Street, you hear about this from your constituents. Each and every single one of these individuals behind me hear it from their constituents each and every single day. And that is from the ratepayers of this state. They are beyond frustrated, and understandably so. They are beyond frustrated at the ever-growing cost of utilities that they have seen in their bills every single month. I cannot tell you how many constituents that I speak with, how many constituents that these fine individuals and my colleagues speak with that say that every single month it is the highest bill they get in their home. Every single month it makes them consider their budget and makes them consider possibly moving out of the state. We are the second highest utility rate in the continental United States of America. We have to do better. Our constituents across the state deserve better from each and every single one of us. So we've seen these rate increases that have been proposed by UI and Eversource. And what we're saying today, what we're highlighting today, is not only is it Pura, not only is it Eversource or UI, it is the policies that have been passed by the majority party here in Hartford that have driven us to this point. It has to come to an end. It has to come to an end. We want to highlight these policies, but even more importantly, we want to highlight our own policies that will help curb these costs. It is critically important to the Main Street of every single one of the communities that we represent that we address this, and we address this now. So I look forward to introducing my House colleague, Vincent Candelora, who's going to lay out some of these policies by both the Senate and House Republicans. Vincent.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everyone, for being here. No question, everyone talks about the high rates of electricity in the state of Connecticut and all of New England. And over the years, the decades I've been here, attempts have been made to curb those costs. What's unique right now that I haven't seen in my lifetime is the sniping that we are seeing between our regulatory agencies, the Democrats, and our electric companies. And we are asking for that to come to an end. We don't want any more sniping. We don't want finger pointing. We want people coming to the table with solutions. Connecticut right now is ranked 47th in its regulatory environment in the country. We have now lawsuits after lawsuits, not just from our electric companies, but our water companies as well, because of the relationship that Pura has created with our utilities. And we are asking the governor today to look at that body and to make the reappointments or appointments that are necessary to Pura in order to start righting this ship. We can't continue to ignore what they're doing. He has a responsibility to come to the table and put forth nominees so that they can be vetted through the legislature, and we could begin to have a conversation with those individuals on what their philosophies are to right this ship. You know, this approach of continuing to just deny rate increases and deny funding is constricting our market. The state of Connecticut right now is investing under $50 million in its grid to improve it at a time when the Democrats want to electrify the state with electric vehicles. And just to our north in Massachusetts, they're investing into the billions in order to make that happen. So Connecticut is not poised in a good position right now. When we look at some of the policy decisions that were made, we're going to talk about that today, is the rate increase that was just put in, these RAM charges, one of which is because of the moratorium that has been put in place by this governor not allowing for the electric companies to turn off people's electricity for non-payment. That policy is going on for 4 years. We are the longest state in the nation to be giving away free electricity to residents. And now what's happened is there's a $200 million bill to pay, and it's going to fall onto those people that are actually paying their bills. And we are saying today this is not fair. It's not a policy that we should just point to the electric companies and say it's their fault. I think the governor and the Democrats need to recognize that these type of decisions, it's what's causing people's rates to increase. So our first proposal that we want to offer is we need to pull PURA out from DEEP. They need to be a standalone agency where they're focused on our grid and electric rates. We continually to see the influence on our energy policies that DEEP has. When they're looking for green energy, they're not taking cost into consideration. And so we believe those two agencies need to be separated. And with that, I will introduce Representative Buckby to roll out the rest of our proposals. Or excuse me, first introduce Senator Fazio to give us our first proposal.
Senate, let's go.
Sorry to delay the main event, Representative. You need a warm-up. So everyone in this state knows that Connecticut's electricity rates are too damn high. It's not acceptable that we have the second highest electricity costs in the entire continental U.S. And there is a better way. There's a better way to actually create an energy policy that will ensure that we have a reliable grid, that we have an affordable grid, and we can protect our environmental considerations as well. Representative Candelora laid out the first part of our 6-point plan. I'll lay out a few more before Representative Buckby. First, the state is becoming increasingly reliant on guaranteed long-term contracts to procure energy rather than most of our energy being procured in an open competitive marketplace. There are some good reasons to have long-term power purchase agreements as part of our procurement strategy. However, they need to be limited and they need to be reasonable and affordable. One of our proposals is that we limit the cost of our power purchase agreements to no more than double the cost of electricity in the wholesale market. To me, that sounds like a very reasonable proposal. How can you justify buying electricity on the backs of ratepayers by more than double the wholesale market? The problem is that we have power purchase agreements out there or pending that likely will be 2-3 times the cost of electricity in the wholesale market. That's not acceptable. We should at least delimit those power purchase agreements to be no more than double the cost of electricity in the wholesale market. There's a couple other proposals that will reduce the long-term cost of electricity. We need an all-of-the-above clean energy strategy. Fortunately, in SB 7 last year, we included new nuclear power and more hydropower in our state's renewable portfolio standard, which is one of the main ways in which we introduce more clean energy into the electricity grid here in Connecticut. However, that shouldn't just bias certain forms of clean energy over others. We need all forms of clean energy to compete on an equal playing field and see the best, most affordable form of that succeed. So all forms of nuclear, all forms of hydropower, and other forms of clean energy should be competing on an equal playing field with solar and wind and other forms of clean energy. We need to study ways to ensure that we have a reliable supply of energy, especially natural gas, especially in the winter months, given that we're going to have an electricity grid that will be peaking in winter going forward when natural gas is competing for home heating and the power grid as well. That includes looking at ways, impediments that exist to bringing more natural gas through the pipeline from the Southwest where it's plentiful and cheap. Over the last 20 years, increased reliance on natural gas compared to coal and oil power plants is responsible for reducing our greenhouse gas emissions here in New England by 50%. In the future, if we were to expand the capacity, it could actually enable us bringing more electric vehicles onto the grid and shifting away from oil peaking plants, which are far, far dirtier than natural gas. This is pro-environment and pro-affordability as well. Finally, we need to look into all the hundreds of millions of dollars of costs that are really discretionary government programs that should be in the normal budgetary process that are embedded as of right into our energy bills and inflate the cost of our energy bills by at least 10%. There's at least a dozen of these different programs that need to be vetted through the normal appropriations process for their costs and benefits every year. So those are just a few of our proposals. I'll turn it over to Representative Buckby, the main event, to finalize the description of our program.
Good morning. Good morning. Quiet room here. Everybody's so focused. I appreciate the build-up, Senator. That's nice. If we could harness some of the the Senate's ability to talk, we'd be harnessing quite a bit of energy right there. But I digress.
It's a joint press meeting.
It is. It's a wonderful thing. There's all kinds of love, Senator. Don't worry. So, in going into what I'm going to say, I was on my way in this morning, and there's I work for a little nonprofit park, right? And it was started by a guy who was a very wealthy and intelligent individual. And he said, 2 things you need in life to get by are drive and common sense. Drive and common sense. You have those 2 things, you'll be doing great in this world. Well, the drive we just discussed, some of that drive. Senator Fazio just laid out a lot of that drive. I'm here to talk a little bit of the common sense. The common sense is we carried this moratorium for 4 years, which is way too long. It's way too long. The RAM adjustment calls for about 1/5 of that RAM adjustment to be to pay back some of this money on the moratorium. Common sense would be, let's be fiscally responsible, take those ARPA funds that we have, and while there's great ideas, everyone has great ideas in this building, we're chock full of them. But the smart idea is a little fiscal responsibility. Let's take those ARPA funds and pay that down, because all these people were paying their bills this entire time, should not be covering that for the rest of the state. Those ARPA funds should be, what's the word I'm looking for? I lost the word. Allocated, thank you. Those ARPA funds should be allocated to cover the RAM adjustment. And I'm not telling Pura how to do their job. We're offering a solution. We're not here to point fingers and cause problems. We're here to present solutions for everybody. So I think it's a common sense solution that will drive people a little more acceptable to where they feel they need their bill to be. We got a lot more work ahead of us, but this is one step we can make as a common sense solution for every ratepayer in the state. Thank you.